So I wanted to make content for like the 3 people who see this because I just wanted to. I was like, I'll make a video, but I didn't know what to do. And I remembered I have this coloring book that one of my kids gave me. And so I'm just going to randomly flip to a page or basically see what the reading is for it. And then probably rant about how that it relates to my life. And also, if you're curious, what's in my teacup. It's Discover Teas, Pirate Boutte. This is not an ad. My friend owns this company, and I have large quantities of her tea with me as I travel about, because it's the only thing that hits for me. It just does. It pays it. I know the person, and I can be like, can you make me one like that, but add a little extra? So, anyways, if you like custom teas, hit her up. She's not on social media like that very much, but anyways, I'm gonna flip the book. I'm gonna pause this and then so you can tell I'm not cheating. And where are we stopping? Okay. You can just pause to read that. All right, I'm gonna use my mom's urn to basically hold y'all up because I don't have all that fancy smashy shit. So I, for the longest time, was someone who, when I saw the Lover's card, I automatically thought about romantic love, which is funny because I'm currently separated. So the fact that that's the page it falls on is hilarious because I'm not thinking about romantic love in this current junction in my life. It's very much about self-love and healing from all the ways in which I abandoned myself in hopes of seeking love or receiving love from individuals who, as I dissect it more, exhibited qualities of my father, and in some weird subconscious way, I thought if I could make these people love me, like show up for me and care for me in the way I needed to be cared for, then somehow that would heal the part of me that was abandoned by my parents. But that's not how that works. It ends up just causing you more trauma. So for the young folks out there, take this as you will, but the only person who can really heal from the shit your parents did to you is you. You can't, other people can't. They can be lessons, but they're not going to fix it. They will just end up causing more harm because you're operating from that place of hurt. And so, well, in this card, the lovers are naked, they're uninhibited. I am having to learn to be naked with myself and sit with my feelings because gross, and understand and forgive myself for all the ways that I abandoned myself, hoping that someone would love me the way I needed it to be loved. And understand that I don't need to perform in order to receive love. I am worthy of love simply because I exist, and that anyone who is making me jump through hoops for it, or who diminishes my pain or uses me as their emotional punching bag, does not actually love me. They love the consumption of me, and I don't want love that is love for the sake of consuming. I want love that is expansive, and that means making peace with the fact that the love from my parents was consumptive. My father only wanted me when he needed something. He viewed me as property. I was the thing that he was allowed to give away, and he was never going to actually give it away, because then who would be around to love and care for him when he ultimately was alone? because the women in his age group knew better than to mess with him. So eventually they'd get tired and he'd run to his daughter to make him feel better, to care for him. But if I was caring for other people, then I couldn't care for him. And so it was always going to be a dismissal of me. I carried that into all of my other dealings with men. It ties into why I tend to have white male partners, because they exhibit the qualities of my father. Basically, my dad's biracial, raised by a white woman, and he has a lot of shit that he's not unpacked, and a lot of internalized self-hate that bled out into me and my brother and how he raised us. And so I looked for the people who had those same sort of wounds from their white mothers, and those people overwhelmingly turned out to be white men. And I figured if they could love me, then I was worth loving. But I am worth loving because I choose to love myself. And you are worth loving because you choose to love yourself. So I'm going to finish this, and you all have a wonderful day. Alright, so I enjoyed coloring yesterday, so I'm going to do it again today. But let me get to the page that I did color so y'all can see that. So that's the finished one from yesterday. And now you can see I'm not cheating. That's just a bunch of people. We want that. We want an actual card. More people. 2 of Wands. Fantastic. Alright, so I've flipped this and kind of configured it because last time the photo was upside down. I want you to be able to see the photo right side up. So the 2 of Wands, it's kind of like looking out on the world, like what's next. And it may sound a little weird because I'm trying to do it one-handed while still holding this phone to some degree, but it's like, what's next? Like, you've had some success, so what are you doing next? And for me, I find myself wondering what's next a lot. Not just in terms of like the greater world. I kind of know that white supremacy has to die in order for what is to come after to come out to come into fruition. I know that I've told people that for years. For me, it's more of a what's next in my life. Like, there's so many things I want to do, and then there are the things that I still need to do. And I had a job interview, the second in this for this position, and I count that as a success. Even if I don't get the job, it's a success that I got that far, and I'm proud of myself for taking the chance and doing the thing that scared me. But it's also still leaves questions like, okay, so if I don't get this, then what am I doing next? And if I do get this, how does this work with what I want for my future? And there is a lot of like fear and uncertainty, and there's power in it though, because I get to design my life however I want. No one else gets to tell me how to live my life. It's mine, and I get to decide that. But that doesn't mean I get to just rest on my laurels and not still have forward momentum. Like, I can be excited for the wins, but I also cannot forget the giant list of things that I am going towards, and we're all like that. Like, it's a balancing act. You have to take time to appreciate your wins, but not get so comfortable that you stop asking yourself, what's next? What do I want next? You can rest, absolutely rest, and that does not mean giving into grind culture when you ask what's next, because what's next might be, okay, I need time to rest and regroup, and you allow yourself that time instead of just mindlessly going forward. When we stop and say, what's next? What have I accomplished? What do I want to accomplish next? And what do I need in this moment? We give ourselves the grace to actually experience life and look upon the world in awe. So I am going to finish this, and I challenge you to look at the world with awe, and also remember that you are that bitch. Bye now. All right, so we're back with another edition of tarot coloring. I'll show y'all yesterday's. Oh, so this is my setup. Like, it's literally my mom and book. But that's what I'm using to hold my phone, so that's why it's always so wonky. Let's... Y'all can pause to read. The star. Alright, so the star. I'm gonna be honest, when like I see it, my brain just goes to that Megan Thee Stallion song. I get money, I'm a star. But to some degree, I guess that song is similar. It's about being at a point where you're completely comfortable and you feel safe and secure, and you can pour into the wells of the world because you have filled your own cup overflowing. And you know that it's about hope and possibility. And for me personally, I spent part of last night bawling my eyes out while I wash the dishes, because the state of the world is a lot, and all I want to do is keep my kids safe, especially one kid in particular. And so it's kind of like it's feeling more difficult every day. And it's easy to give in to the despair, and then I have to remember, like the Two of Wands, that I am more than capable of doing what needs to be done, and I can look out on what I've accomplished so far and see that I have to remember to have hope and to shine bright, because there are others who will bask in that light and find hope for themselves, and I can't just give in to despair, because that doesn't serve me, and it doesn't serve my greater purpose in the world or my role as human's mother. And so but it's not always easy. It's not. It's hard to be the star sometimes, because we're taught that we aren't supposed to pour into ourselves. We're supposed to just pour into others and give and give and give. And I'm talking more specifically to those raised as women, especially Black women. There is a constant asking of our labor. One of the last things I said to my current husband was, "You are aware that you're asking me for more labor." Like, it's you can't say, "Oh, I'm not," but then turn around and actually do that. Like, that's what that is. And sorry, my alarm went off there for a second. That's what it is. And part of knowing, having the ability to pour into the world, means also having the boundaries to say no, and understanding that you have worth, and you can say, "I'm not going to do this labor, so that way I can do the labor of loving me and caring for those I need to care for, and having hope that in all of that we all can be safe and sound." So, even if you look at the world and you feel absolute despair, remember that your well is worth filling up first, and you can't change the world if you're pouring for an empty cup. So take the time to be the star you need, and then go from there. And I'm going to finish this, and you'll have a wonderful day. All right, so I've really enjoyed this, so we're going to do again first. I'm going to show you yesterday's. And we will judgment. Pause to read. Okay, so I was really curious to see which coloring page would show itself today, because since I got up this morning, I've had that quote that we often attribute to Rumi, the wound is where the light enters, in my head, but more of like a reflection on that. So the wound is where the light enters if you allow the light to enter. If you don't, the wound is where darkness dwells. And so, in terms of judgment, because judgment is not about like sitting up high and judging others. It's about looking at yourself and what you're still holding on to that could potentially prevent you from having the life that you claim you want. What wounds are still sitting there that you're not letting the light in, you're letting darkness dwell. And that's something that I have been sitting with for a while, especially in the past few years since my mom, a couple of years, it's only been 2 years since she died. And how I have like lived so much of my life from the place where the wounds dwell, and how that can get in my way and cause me to pick people who don't have my best interest at heart, because I am attempting to love them whole in hopes that the light will finally enter into my wound. And that's not how it works. I have to love myself and sit with the things that I do or don't do that get in the way of me loving myself. So that way the light can enter and I can go forth into the world in a better place. I only get there by judging myself. That's how we all get there, is we have to sit in judgment of ourselves and understand that we are absolutely deserving of being loved and being safe and secure. And sometimes we're not getting that because we are still operating from the place of our wound, but not to let light into it, but to let darkness in and darkness dwell, and to allow the darkness to reaffirm the narrative that we have picked up through life and our experiences. And when we give ourselves grace and let the light in, then we can move forward. And so as we approach this Friday and all that is in store for us, I hope that you find a way to let the light into your wound just a little bit. And I'm going to finish this, and you all have a wonderful day. All right, you all know what time it is. Coloring time. But first I gotta show you the one I did the other day. It's so pretty. All right. Bookmark. Okay. That's a cool picture, but that's not what we're going for right now. Or wait, was that? Hold on. Now I have to go back and check to make sure that it wasn't actually a card. Hold on, my bad. Okay, no, it wasn't. It was just reflections. Okay. Hold on. All right, well, let's try this again. I'm not looking. God damn it. There we go. Temperance. Pause to read. Okay, so this is hilarious because, temperance is all about balance. And I spent last night up until like 3 a.m. Watching Game Changer on Dropout. I definitely needed to have gone to bed by at least 1. I felt it, like I was exhausted, and at the same time I've been so burnt out managing all the things. It's one of the things I'm unpacking and dealing with is how much labor I have given to people and places and things that did not necessarily reciprocate that labor or appreciate that labor to the degree that I needed to be appreciated. A lot of martyrdom, a lot of that whole you have to work twice as hard to get half of what they have, and that's true. That is what we have to do. But at the same time, I'm so fucking over having to do that. Like, what? Like, it takes all of the fucking joy out of my life because I am constantly having to overperform to get a fucking smidge of what mediocre white ass fucking people get, who will then sit there and claim credit for the labor that you've done, and it's really fucking annoying. And I'm immensely burnt out from it. And it is throwing off my balance. Like, my house is not in disorder. Like, I spent Monday getting my whole house in order. So everything is like clean and organized, and it looks good on the outside. Internally, though, I am still an exhausted fucking mess. And so I guess that's what I need to focus on, is spending more time cleaning my internal house, because it's easy to clean the external house, because you can see that and you're like, yay, and you get gratification from it looking a certain way and smelling a certain way and feeling a certain way. But that doesn't change the fact that your internal house is still a goddamn mess. And so, as I sit here coloring Temperance and watching her balancing act, I have to also take into account my own balancing act and understand that just as much as I want my external world to be organized and clean and tidy and everything, I also have to clean my internal world. I have to make that tidy. I have to take time to focus on me and not panic and worry about all the things that are piling up in the background, because a lot of times we turn mountains into molehills, and there's always a fucking solution for everything. It's not the end of the world. It only feels like the end of the world. But there's always a way forward if you know what it is you want. But it's really hard to know what you want when you don't have balance and there's disorder and chaos inside your mind. So, as we approach this Saturday and all that the world has in store for us, take some time to sit with your internal world and decide what it is you actually need to be balanced, and find joy in the act of loving yourself and finding your balance within. And until next time, you all have a wonderful day. All right, it is time, and this is yesterday's. I'll get to it. So pretty. All right, let's get this out the way. And not looking as I. All right. Well, we've already done lovers, so I'll just put a pin in that. All right. Three of Swords. So, Three of Swords. That pain, that motherfucking pain. So, this is something I've been working on. Is actually letting myself feel my feelings. Instead of just going, now, there are people, when people ask, I tell them I'm fine, because feeling your feelings doesn't always mean you have to, like, pour them out to every fucking body. Not everybody needs to be the vessel which you place your feelings. That's one thing I am learning, is not everybody needs to be that place. But that doesn't mean that nobody gets to be that place. And sometimes you have to find avenues for sharing your feelings, so that way you don't just bottle them up. Yes, no, I know, I'm working on that. I can hear a couple of my friends be like, Because if you don't let yourself feel them, then you don't get to the part after that where you actually can learn from it. Instead, you think you've learned from it, but in reality, you just end up doing the same sad little patterns over and over again that bring you nothing but more hurt because you haven't addressed what hurt. And also, that means looking at patterns in your life where you were engaging. I'm trying to put the lid back on my marker. In behaviors that were harmful as well, either to yourself or to others, and examine why you were doing that and how you can ensure that you don't do that going forward, because life is never perfect, but it's all about making new mistakes, new ways in which to fuck shit up and learn and grow, because that is what it is. It is constant. All right, so that didn't go the way I had planned for it to. What are we going to do now? But you have to give yourself the space and a place to be like, all right, this is how I feel about that. The feelings are important, and it is very difficult for me to say this, and those who know me will be like, well, it's because you're Aquarius. And yes, I mean, we can say my astrological sign plays a role in that. Also, my nearly 40 years of life and trauma that I have experienced play a huge role in that too, where I learned to stuff my emotions down because people did not have the capacity to hold them. And one of the things that I am working really hard on is not stuffing those emotions down, and understanding that if someone does not have the capacity to hold it, then that's not their job. Like they're not the person for me in that moment. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means they're not in a place or space themselves to hold that feeling. But that doesn't mean that I then pretend that feeling doesn't exist, because that's not true. It does, and I have the right to feel it and to express it and to deal with it in a healthy manner. We all have that. And one of the things I think is a huge problem in our society, and you can see it with the way people act about COVID, is that we don't actually let ourselves feel. Like, lots of people talk about, oh, I feel, no, you don't. You don't, because we literally had a giant, massive event that is still actively taking place, causing death and disablement, and everybody's just sticking their head in the sand and not acknowledging the very real grief that came with that, and how everyone is scared, which is why there's an uptick in fascism. It's all interconnected, and it all stems back from not feeling what we need to feel and not owning our sadness and our joy and our anger, and instead just like mindlessly doom scrolling. So as I finish this on this rainy Sunday morning, I challenge you all to sit with all those little feelings that you stuff down and examine them, and actually give yourself the grace and the freedom to feel what you feel. And then from there, determine what does that mean and what you need to do in order to find joy in life and move forward with knowledge and wisdom. And you all have a wonderful day. All right, it's up. I've showered, and now it is time for coloring. But first, I get to it. There we go. This is yesterday's. So now we remove the bookmark. I'm not gonna look. Okay. Pause to read. Alright, so death. Now, when I first started learning tarot, like a lot of people, death was kind of scary. Because in our society, one of the things I have realized while grieving my mother is that we avoid death in the West. Like we don't let ourselves dwell on it or think on it. There was so many folks who just kind of expected me to just get up and go back to like all the overperforming I was doing before she died, which is immensely fucking toxic. Like, we're just supposed to bury it down deep and pretend that these things don't gut us. And then we wonder why everybody's so fucked up when we don't let ourselves sit with the natural flow of life. Like, we celebrate birth and then we move on. And then you have all of these things in life that we take time for. And then death comes and it's like, oh, yeah, that sucks. Anyways, and you're just supposed to, you go to the funeral and then you're supposed to just move on. Like, caskets closed, back to regular everyday life. And that's not how that works. And that's like, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to actually learn from death. We just try to ignore the lesson. And there's a lot of lessons in letting go. Not just in natural death, where, we're losing this person and we have to grapple with who they were and who they were to us and what we had expected of them versus what we actually got. And that's a whole conversation in and of itself. Like, because so much of what we grieve is what we'll never get and what we did get, and especially if that wasn't like enough for us, for whatever reason. But death also deals with letting go of the things that don't serve us, or the ideas that we hold on to that get in our way, and the narratives that we've been taught that aren't helpful. There's so much we pick up from the world that we just carry, and death asks us to let it go. Like, one, it goes, why are you carrying this? What is the purpose of this? And then if there isn't one, you have to let it go, and that's not always easy, and it doesn't always feel good, and it hurts. And death is not supposed to be a feel-good experience. It's what helps us remember our humanity. So I'm not a huge fan of like the notion of humans living forever. Like, I play D&D and 9 times out of 10 I'll have my character live forever. But in actual reality, I think the notion that we become robots and don't die is an affront to the natural order, because death is important. In death, we have the opportunity to examine our humanity and change that which we wish to change and accept that which we want to accept. And so death can be really fucking scary. Like, I'm not trying to go anytime soon. I don't want to. I like the life I've built for myself. At the same time, I also know that there are a number of things that I am holding on to that need to die, so that way I can live the life I actually really want to live. And it's scary to sit and face those things that I have held on to out of fear of what happens when they die. But you have to. And so my challenge to you, we go into this Monday morning, is to sit with the things that you know deep down need to die, and ask yourself why you're still holding on to them, and then take a deep breath and let it go, because you deserve to live life to the fullest in whatever means that means for you. And so, until next time, y'all have a good day.